Out here in the Wild West, every whisper hides a secret, and every secret could change everything. Before we ride into today's story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of suspense, betrayal, and redemption. Now, let's begin. The desert night was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that presses down on a man's shoulders and makes him wonder if he's being watched. Rancher Eli Carson had spent long days working cattle, but this night his boots carried him farther than usual. His lantern swung low, throwing shadows against the canyon walls, and that's when he heard it. A voice. A trembling whisper carried on the wind. "Please, you'll never forgive me." Eli froze. He wasn't a man easily spooked. Years of hardship had made sure of that. But those words cut through him like a knife. He raised the lantern higher. "Who's there?" he called. No answer. Only the rustle of dry sagebrush. He stepped forward, heart beating heavy. And then, just beyond a cluster of rocks, he saw her. A woman. Thin, battered, her dress torn like it had been through a war. Her wrists were bound with coarse rope. Her face was streaked with tears and dust. "Help me," she whispered. "But if you do, you'll never forgive me." Eli dropped to one knee, reaching for his knife. He sliced the rope loose, his lantern flickering across her pale skin. "Who did this to you?" he asked. She shook her head, trembling. "It doesn't matter. You shouldn't be here. If they find us, if you find out what I've done—" She stopped, choking on her own words. Eli steadied her with a hand. "Easy now. Nobody deserves to be left like this." But as his hand touched hers, he saw it. Something carved into her skin. Not just cuts from rope. Letters. Words burned into her flesh. He stared in horror as his lantern light revealed the scar. "Traitor!" The woman yanked her hand away, shame flooding her eyes. "You see now," she said, her voice breaking. "That's why you'll never forgive me. And that's why I should have died out here." Eli's breath caught. Questions swirled in his mind. Who marked her like this? What betrayal had she carried? But before he could speak again, a sharp crack echoed across the canyon. A rifle. The bullet sparked against the stone, inches from his head. The woman gasped. "They've found me." Eli grabbed her arm. "Run!" The two of them sprinted into the darkness, the lantern swinging wildly before shattering on the rocks behind them. Shadows swallowed the desert. Bullets tore through the silence. And in that frantic heartbeat, Eli knew one thing for certain. Whatever secret this woman carried, it was worth killing for. The desert swallowed sound as Eli and the woman ran, boots pounding hard against the sand. Behind them, gunfire cracked again, ricocheting off stone like the howl of an angry spirit. Eli yanked her by the arm, guiding her into a dry creek bed. They crouched low, the moon spilling silver across the canyon. His chest burned from the sprint, but his grip on her hand didn't falter. "Stay quiet," he whispered. The woman nodded, but her trembling gave her away. Her breaths came sharp and ragged, eyes darting to every shadow. Eli pressed his back against the canyon wall, listening. He counted 2, maybe 3 riders from the way the rocks carried their voices. Whoever they weren't just hunting her. They wanted her dead. The hoofbeats grew louder. The riders were sweeping the canyon. Eli reached for his revolver. 6 bullets. Not much against a group. He glanced at the woman. "If they catch up, you run. Don't look back." She shook her head violently. "No. They'll kill you. They'll kill us both." He met her gaze, haunted eyes, raw with fear and something deeper. Guilt. "What did you do?" he asked, voice low. The words slipped out before she could stop them. "I betrayed them." Eli narrowed his eyes. "Them who?" She bit her lip until it bled. "Please, don't make me say it. You'll hate me too." Her voice cracked, and for a moment Eli wanted to push further. But the sound of a rifle bolt clicking snapped him back to the present. The first rider's shadow spilled across the canyon wall. Eli shoved her deeper into the creek bed. "Stay down." The rider leaned in the saddle, scanning the dark. A lantern swung from his hand, the glow cutting across the rocks. He stopped, staring straight at the creek. Eli held his breath. The woman's nails dug into his arm. Then, bang! Eli fired first. The rider toppled from his horse, crashing into the sand. His lantern burst, flames licking across the ground. "Go!" Eli shouted, shoving the woman ahead. They scrambled up the opposite bank, flames casting their shadows tall against the canyon. The other riders roared in anger, shots ringing out. One bullet sliced Eli's shoulder. He gritted his teeth, clutching the wound but refusing to slow. Blood soaked his shirt, hot and heavy. They didn't stop running until the gunfire faded behind them, replaced only by the wind. At last, they collapsed beneath a lone mesquite tree, the woman falling to her knees. Eli leaned against the trunk, hand pressed hard against his wound. "You're hurt," she whispered. "I've had worse," he muttered, though his face was pale. She tore a strip from her dress and pressed it against his shoulder, trembling hands steadying for the first time. "You didn't have to save me," she said. "Not after what I've done." Eli studied her face in the moonlight. "I don't know what you've done. All I know is they're trying real hard to make sure nobody finds out. That tells me it's bigger than you." Tears welled in her eyes, but she forced a bitter laugh. "You don't understand. I destroyed everything. My people, my family. They'll never forgive me. And when you learn the truth, you won't either." Eli winced as she tied the cloth tight. "Try me." But before she could speak, a sound drifted from the distance. Not gunfire, not hoofbeats, drums, slow, steady, echoing through the canyon like the heartbeat of the desert. The woman's face drained of color. She grabbed his arm with desperate strength. "They're not stopping," she whispered. "They'll chase me until I'm dead. You should leave me here. If you stay with me, you'll share my fate." Eli looked at her, at the scar branded across her skin, at the terror in her eyes. He shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "Whatever you're running from, it ends tonight. You're not alone anymore." The drums grew louder, rolling like thunder. Shadows flickered against the rocks. The woman buried her face in her hands. "God help us," she wept. "They've found us." Eli cocked his revolver, blood dripping from his arm but resolve hard in his voice. "Then let 'em come." The night air grew heavy, thick with dread as the drums rolled through the canyon. They weren't just sounds, they were signals. A call. A warning. A sentence carried on the desert wind. Eli steadied himself against the mesquite tree, jaw tight as the woman trembled beside him. Her body shook with each beat, like the sound itself was ripping through her bones. "Who are they?" he demanded, voice low but sharp. She swallowed hard, eyes glistening. "They're not outlaws. They're worse. They're my people." Eli's eyes narrowed. "Your people? Why would they brand you a traitor?" Her lips quivered. "Because I betrayed them. I broke an oath that can't be mended." Eli frowned, not letting her words sink too deep. "Oaths don't mean much if they cost your life. What did you do?" The drums pounded louder. She hugged herself tight, unable to speak. And then, torches. Dozens of them, snaking through the canyon. Figures moved with purpose, their shadows tall and stretching across the rock walls. Eli felt the revolver heavy in his hand. 6 bullets left. Not nearly enough. The woman turned to him, desperation written across her face. "If they catch me, they'll make an example of me. And if they see you with me, you'll hang beside me." Her words hit like cold steel. But Eli's gaze didn't waver. "Then we better make sure they don't catch us." The riders dismounted below, their voices carrying up the canyon. Eli couldn't make out all the words, but he caught enough. Traitor. Punished. Blood. The woman pressed her forehead into her knees. "Please, leave me. Save yourself." Eli crouched beside her, gripping her chin and forcing her to meet his eyes. "I don't walk away from people who need saving. Now tell me, why are they after you?" Her breath shuddered. She hesitated, fighting the truth like it was poison on her tongue. Finally, she whispered, "I told the soldiers where they'd be. I gave away the camp." Eli's blood chilled. The army. That explained the rifles, the discipline, the cold anger in the voices below. "You betrayed your own people to the army?" he asked, voice rough. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I thought I was saving lives. They promised no one would die if I gave them the location. But they lied. They slaughtered everyone, children, elders, all of them. And it's my fault." Eli's stomach twisted. The weight of her confession hung heavy in the night. He wanted to speak, but no words came. She covered her face with her hands. "Do you see now? That's why you'll never forgive me. That's why I don't deserve saving." The drums stopped. Silence pressed in, suffocating. Then a voice boomed from below, carrying through the canyon like thunder. "Give us the woman, and we'll let you live." The torches flickered. Shadows shifted. They knew he was there. Eli clenched his jaw. His shoulder throbbed with pain, blood still seeping through the makeshift bandage. But his hand didn't leave the revolver. He looked at the woman. She stared back, eyes wide, waiting for his decision. He could walk away, leave her to face her fate, save himself. Or he could stand against the tide, even if it killed him. The choice burned in his chest. Eli raised his voice, steady as stone. "You'll have to take her from me." A roar erupted from the canyon. The torches surged forward. The woman gasped, clutching his arm. "You fool! They'll tear you apart." Eli cocked the revolver, his eyes locked on the glow of fire crawling closer. "Then they'll find out how hard I am to kill." The first figure climbed the ridge, torchlight gleaming off a rifle barrel. Eli raised his gun, and then, suddenly, the drums started again. Faster, louder, different this time. A signal. The riders stopped. They froze in their tracks. Confusion rippled through the canyon. The leader barked something in their tongue, and the others hesitated. Eli frowned. "What's happening?" The woman's face drained of color. She clutched his sleeve, her voice breaking. "They're not stopping. They've called for the judgment." Eli's pulse hammered in his ears. "What's the judgment?" She shook her head, eyes filled with terror. "It means, no matter where we run, no matter who protects me, they'll hunt us until one of us is dead." The drums thundered, sealing the vow of blood. And in that moment, Eli understood. He hadn't just taken in a woman on the run. He had stepped into a war written in blood and betrayal. The drums rolled like thunder through the canyon, shaking the ground beneath Eli's boots. He had heard war cries before, but this was different. This was ritual. This was promise. The woman's eyes were locked on the torchlight below, her face pale as bone. "It's done," she whispered. "They've sworn it." The oath of blood. There's no turning back now. Eli shifted, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. "What does it mean?" "It means they'll chase us until one of us is dead. Me or them. And you," her voice cracked, "you're marked too now, by standing with me." Eli exhaled slow. He'd spent years alone on the range, fighting storms, wild beasts, and men who'd rather shoot than talk. But never had he stood against an entire people sworn to vengeance. Yet something in him didn't falter. He looked at the scar burned into her skin, the word traitor carved like a brand. "If they swore blood, then we'll answer with it. I've seen worse odds." The woman's lips trembled. "No, you haven't." Below, the leader raised his torch high. Dozens of voices answered in unison, a cry that shook the canyon walls. Then the flames began to scatter, half circling left, half right. "They're surrounding us," Eli muttered. The woman clutched his arm. "We can't fight them here. They'll pin us against the rocks." Eli scanned the ridge. A narrow path snaked upward through boulders, almost hidden by brush. It was steep, dangerous, but it led out of the canyon. "Up there," he said. "Move." They climbed fast, hands scraping against stone, lungs burning with every breath. Below, torches swarmed like fire ants, the riders scrambling to cut them off. Halfway up, Eli slipped, his wounded shoulder screaming in protest. The woman grabbed his hand, pulling with all her strength. For a moment, their eyes locked, her face strained, his jaw clenched. And then he was moving again. At the ridgetop, they collapsed, gasping. Wind swept across the desert, carrying the drums and the cries, still chasing them. The woman curled into herself, voice breaking. "Why do you keep helping me? You don't even know my name." Eli sat against a boulder, breathing hard. "Names don't change the fact you needed saving. But since you brought it up, what do I call you?" She hesitated as if the word itself was dangerous. Then, softly, "Marisol." Eli repeated it under his breath, testing it. "Marisol. Now listen to me. You might have betrayed your people, but you were lied to. If what you say is true, you weren't the one who killed them. That blood's on the army's hands." Her eyes flashed with pain. "Tell that to the children who never woke up, to the mothers who never came back from the river. They'll never see me as anything but a traitor." Eli opened his mouth to answer, but the ground shook. Hoofbeats. Dozens of them. The torches had reached the ridge below. The hunt was climbing fast. Eli stood, swaying slightly from blood loss. "We keep moving. East. There's an abandoned mission 2 miles out, stone walls, thick doors. We can hole up there until sunrise." Marisol's eyes widened. "You know what sunrise means, don't you?" He frowned. "What? The judgment ends at sunrise. If they haven't killed me by then, they'll burn the oath into someone else. And the hunt will never stop. Not for me, not for anyone who stands with me." Eli's chest tightened. "So if we live through the night, they'll hunt us forever," she finished. Silence stretched between them. The desert wind whistled through the rocks. Below, the torches glowed brighter as the riders closed in. Marisol's shoulders slumped. "You should go. Save yourself, please. I'm not worth the cost." Eli stepped closer, gripping her hand firmly. "I've lost too much already. Family, friends, folks I should have saved but didn't. You think I'm going to add you to that list? Not tonight." Her lips parted, a protest caught in her throat. But no words came. The first rider crested the ridge. Eli fired. The shot rang like lightning, sending the man tumbling back into the dark. The rest surged forward. The chase was on. Eli pulled Marisol with him, both of them running into the desert night, toward the mission, toward the thin thread of hope that sunrise might bring. Behind them, the drums pounded faster. The oath of blood had begun. The desert stretched endless beneath the stars, every shadow alive with danger. Eli's breath burned in his chest, each step heavy from blood loss. Still, he kept Marisol moving, her hand clutched tight in his. Far behind them, the drums pounded steady, echoing across the barren land like a promise carved in stone. "They won't stop," Marisol whispered, glancing over her shoulder. "Not until I'm dead." "Then we make them stop," Eli growled. His voice was steady, but his body told another story. The wound in his shoulder throbbed, warm blood soaking through his shirt. He knew he was running out of strength. At last, through the haze of dust and moonlight, the dark shape of the old mission rose from the earth. Its stone walls were cracked and worn, but the heavy oak doors still stood. The bell tower leaned like a drunkard, frozen in time. "There," Eli muttered. "Inside." They pushed through the rotting doors and into the cavernous dark. Moonlight spilled through holes in the roof, painting the broken pews in silver. Rats scattered across the floor. Marisol pressed her back to the wall, trembling. "They'll surround it." "We'll be trapped." Eli holstered his revolver and began dragging benches across the doorway, barricading the entrance. "Good. Let 'em. Walls'll funnel them one at a time. Better odds for us." She watched him, torn between fear and disbelief. "Why do you fight so hard for me? You don't even know if I'm worth it." Eli stopped, meeting her eyes in the half-light. "Worth it ain't the point. You're alive, and I don't let people die if I can help it." Her lips trembled, but before she could answer, the sound came. Hoofbeats. Dozens of them, drawing closer. Eli climbed the bell tower's crumbling stairs, peering out through the cracks. Torches flickered across the desert like a tide of fire. Riders spread wide, encircling the mission. The drums beat faster. "They've got us surrounded," he muttered. Marisol hugged herself tight. "They'll burn it. Smoke us out. That's how it ends." Eli's jaw clenched. "Not tonight." He descended, reloading his revolver. 6 rounds. He checked his belt. 2 more cartridges. 8 shots total. Against an army. He looked at Marisol. She sat slumped in a pew, the moonlight catching the scar branded into her skin. Traitor. For a moment, something flickered in Eli's chest. Pity, maybe. Or anger at the world that had carved that word into her flesh. "Listen," he said. "If I fall, you take the back passage. Mission walls hide a narrow path through the rocks. Ride hard, don't stop. You hear me?" Her eyes widened. "No, I won't leave you." "You will if you want to live." She shook her head fiercely. "I've already doomed enough people. I won't run from this." Before Eli could argue, the first torchlight hit the doorway. A rider dismounted, advancing, slow, rifle gleaming. Another followed. Shadows filled the broken windows. The leader's voice rang out, deep and cruel. "Hand her over, rancher. This is not your fight." Eli's hand tightened on the revolver. "You made it my fight the moment you marked her." A harsh laugh answered. "Then you'll die with her." The rider kicked the doors, splintering wood. Eli fired. The shot cracked like thunder, dropping the man where he stood. The doors shuddered under the force of boots, fists, shoulders. Marisol screamed as smoke began to billow through the cracks. Torches tossed against the wood. Flames licked higher. Eli shoved her toward the rear passage. "Go!" But she grabbed his shirt, her eyes wild. "I won't leave you." The doors burst open, flames roaring. Figures surged through the smoke. Eli fired again and again, the recoil jarring his wounded arm. 2 men fell, then another, but more poured in behind them. Marisol snatched a broken beam from the floor, swinging with desperate fury. The first attacker grabbed her arm. She drove the wood into his face, blood spraying. Eli fired his last round. The hammer clicked on an empty chamber. The room filled with shadows, firelight dancing against the stone. The leader stepped inside, tall, broad-shouldered, his face painted with ash. He carried a long knife, gleaming red in the firelight. "Your fight ends here," he snarled. Eli dropped the useless revolver, fists clenched, blood dripping down his arm. He glanced once at Marisol, her chest heaving, tears streaked down her cheeks. Then he stepped forward to meet the leader head-on. The firelight painted the mission walls in shades of gold and blood. Smoke coiled around the rafters, choking the air. Shadows twisted, alive with the movement of men closing in. Eli squared his shoulders, stepping forward. His revolver was empty, but his fists were steady. He had nothing left but his will. The leader grinned, a cruel glint in his eyes. The long knife caught the firelight as he lifted it. "You protect a traitor, rancher. That makes you one too." Marisol pressed her back against the pew, clutching the broken beam like a weapon. Her body trembled, but her eyes stayed fixed on the scarred word burned into her hand. Traitor. Eli's voice cut through the roar of the flames. "She's not the traitor. The army is." The leader's grin faltered for just a breath. "She sold us to them." "She told them where you'd be," Eli said, his voice sharp and hard. "But they lied. They slaughtered your people, same as they've done to mine. She didn't betray you, she was betrayed." The words hung in the air, heavy as stone. The men behind the leader shifted uneasily, their torches flickering. Doubt cracked their fury just for a moment. But Marisol cried out, her voice raw. "I thought I was saving you. They promised no one would die. I was a fool, yes, but I never wanted blood. I never wanted this." Her sobs echoed through the hollow mission. Eli stepped closer, fists raised. "If you kill her, you're finishing what the army started. You'll be their weapon, not their enemy. The leader's nostrils flared. His grip on the knife tightened. You think you can speak of honor, rancher? You think you can wash her hands clean? Eli didn't answer. He lunged. The two men collided with a crash, the knife flashing in the firelight. Eli caught the leader's wrist, muscles straining, the blade inches from his throat. Heat burned his wounded shoulder, agony screaming through him, but he didn't let go. The leader slammed him back against a pillar. The knife nicked his cheek, drawing blood. Eli roared, twisting with all his strength. The blade clattered to the ground. The men around them surged forward, but Marisol screamed, swinging the beam with wild strength. She struck one in the head, then another, driving them back. Her voice tore through the smoke. Stop. Can't you see? I was tricked. If you kill me, you kill the truth. The fighters hesitated. Their torches wavered. The leader snarled, driving Eli to the floor. His hands closed around Eli's throat, squeezing tight. Eli's vision darkened. He clawed at the man's arms, lungs burning. Then, Marisol grabbed the fallen knife. She held it high, her hands shaking. Tears streamed down her face. Stop! She screamed, pressing the blade against her own chest. If blood is what you want, take mine. End it now. The room froze. The men stared, silent but wide-eyed. Even the drums outside faltered. The leader's grip loosened. His fury wavered, confusion breaking through. Marisol's voice cracked, raw with pain. Yes, I told the soldiers. I believed their lies, and every night since, I've lived with the weight of the dead. If death is justice, then take it, but don't drag him down with me. Her eyes locked with Eli's. You'll never forgive me. I know that, but at least you'll live. Eli, gasping for air, rasped out the words. Marisol, don't. The knife trembled in her hands. Her chest heaved. She pressed the blade harder, ready to plunge it deep. And then, a voice rang out from the doorway, old, gravelly, filled with grief. Enough. The crowd parted. An elder stepped into the firelight, his hair long and white, his face lined with sorrow. His eyes fixed on Marisol, and tears glistened there. She is guilty, he said softly, but not of betrayal, of believing the enemy's tongue. The leader growled. She gave them our children. No, the elder interrupted, his voice rising like thunder. The army killed them, not her. Silence swallowed the room. The men lowered their torches, their anger cracking like glass. Eli coughed, pushing himself to his knees. Marisol's knife clattered from her hand, her body shaking. The elder's voice dropped to a whisper. Her punishment is not ours to give. It belongs to the dead, and they will never rise to claim it. The leader's face twisted, torn between rage and doubt. His eyes blazed at Eli, then at Marisol. Finally, with a roar, he turned and stormed out into the night. The others followed, silent and heavy. The torches vanished into the darkness. The drums faded into nothing. For the first time, the desert was still. Marisol collapsed to her knees, sobbing into her hands. Eli knelt beside her, resting a trembling hand on her shoulder. It's over, he whispered. But in his gut, he knew the truth. It wasn't over. Not yet. The mission was quiet now, its stone walls blackened with smoke, its wooden doors reduced to smoldering ash. The torches were gone. The drums had faded. The only sound was Marisol's sobs echoing in the hollow chamber. Eli leaned back against a broken pew, his breath ragged, blood soaking his shirt. He felt every ache in his bones, but he forced himself to stay upright. His eyes stayed on her. She knelt in the firelight, hands trembling, the knife lying forgotten at her feet. The scar branded into her flesh caught the glow like a cruel reminder of what she'd been called. Traitor. It's over, Eli whispered again, though the words felt thin. Marisol shook her head, voice raw. No, it will never be over. The army's lies killed them, but I opened the door. Their blood is on my hands. You said it yourself. You'll never forgive me. Eli exhaled slowly, studying her. I didn't say that. Her eyes snapped to his, red and swollen from tears. You looked at me the same way they did. Like I was filth, like I was poison. He didn't answer right away. The truth was harder than any bullet. He had judged her. He'd felt that cold twist in his gut when she confessed. But looking at her now, broken, raw, ready to give her life to make it right, he saw something else. I looked at you like a man who's buried too many people, he said softly, like a man who's tired of seeing death win. Her lips parted, but no words came. Eli pushed himself upright, staggering toward the broken doorway. Dawn painted the desert sky in shades of pink and gold. The drums were gone, but their echo lingered in his chest. Come here, he said. Marisol hesitated, then rose, her bare feet crunching over ash. She stepped beside him, gazing out at the horizon. The elder's words still hung in the air. Her punishment is not ours to give. It belongs to the dead. She wrapped her arms around herself. Maybe the dead will forgive me someday, but the living never will. Eli turned, his gaze steady on her. Maybe forgiveness doesn't start with them. Maybe it starts with you. Her breath caught. Tears welled in her eyes again, but softer this time. How can I forgive myself? Eli looked out at the sunrise, the first light spilling across the desert. By living. By making sure their blood wasn't spilled for nothing. Silence stretched between them, filled only by the whisper of the morning wind. Finally Marisol spoke, her voice trembling but clear. Then I'll live, but only if you walk with me. Eli's jaw tightened. He had always been a loner, a man who kept his distance from others. But something in her eyes, fragile yet unbroken, pulled at the part of him he thought long dead. He nodded once. Then we walked together. She reached for his hand. He hesitated only a breath before taking it. Her palm was rough, scarred, branded by the word that had haunted her. But to him, it no longer read traitor. It read survivor. The two stepped out into the desert, the sunrise casting their shadows long across the sand. Behind them, the mission stood blackened, its walls scarred like Marisol's flesh. But like her, it still stood. As they walked, Marisol whispered, almost to herself, "You'll never forgive me." Eli squeezed her hand. His voice was low, steady, carrying the weight of truth. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow, but I'll try. Her breath hitched, and for the first time in years, she let herself believe in hope. The desert stretched wide and endless before them, the dawn blazing brighter with each step. And though the oath of blood had been sworn, though the past would always linger, they walked toward the future, together.